Welcome back to all the participants, delegates, distinguished guests. Good morning to everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, all over the world. So, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning from Paris. I welcome you all to our final day of the 16th session of the Intergovernmental Committee. It is hard to believe we have already arrived at our last day. Yesterday, we progressed according to the provisional timetable covering items 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 and part of item 14. We accomplished quite a lot of work and operated very productively. Dear committee members, thank you for your hard work. As indicated in the provisional timetable, we will discuss the remaining items 14 through to 21 today. Hard work. We will need to continue to act efficiently during today's session in order to finish all of the items we have at hand. So I need your fullest cooperation to complete these things. So, distinguished delegates, without further delay, let us now continue our meeting by returning to item 14 on the reflection on the listing mechanisms of the Convention and proposal for related revisions to the Operational Directives. We will now continue with the item 14. As you can see on the screen, reflection on the listing mechanisms of the Convention and proposal for related revisions to the Operational Directives. As I mentioned to committee members yesterday, and as some of my colleagues have pointed out, this item is one of the key substantive items of this session of the committee. Yes, of course, as the listing mechanisms constitute a backbone of our convention. It was on this basis, and so as to give due and adequate regard to the debate of the committee, that I made the decision to suspend this item for further discussions today in the morning. Therefore, I would like to once again welcome the Ambassador of Japan, Mr. Oike Asuki, the chairperson of the Intergovernmental Open-Ended Working Group in the framework of the global reflection on the listing mechanism. Good morning to you, Mr. Oike. I would now like to give the floor to the Secretariat to explain how to take this item forward. Before that, I want to wish dear Secretary, Mr. Tim Curtis, good morning. And also, Mr. Otone, our Assistant Director General, good morning to you and all the Secretariat. Good morning to you. This is the last day. So over to you, Mr. Curtis, now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, and good morning to everyone. So yesterday, the committee first heard the report of the open-ended working group presented by the Ambassador of Japan in his capacity as chairperson of that working group. The presentation focused on the work achieved by the working group in the framework of the global reflection on the listing mechanisms, which resulted in the recommendations as contained in Annex 1 of the working document for this item. The working group requested the Secretariat to translate the recommendations in the form of proposed revisions to the operational directives, which are contained in Annex 2 of the working documents for this item. So yesterday I presented the proposed amendments and hope to have demonstrated that each and every recommendation point was dealt with in one way or another. Earlier this week, the delegation of Japan submitted an amendment with regards to step 5 of the removal procedure, since this point was missing in the document initially published. The Secretariat worked in consultation with the delegation of Japan to prepare this amendment in order to complete the procedure. So yesterday, the presentation I gave on the revisions to the operational directives also included the amendment proposed by Japan But also yesterday, the Secretariat received another amendment from the delegation of China with regard to Annex 2 of Document 14. And as indicated in the form used to submit the amendment, it was indicated that the delegation of China prepared its amendment based on the original proposal in the working document, as well as the amendment submitted by Japan. The amendment from the delegation of China required further examination to understand its correspondence with the recommendations of the working group or the Annex 1 of the working document. So at the end of the meeting yesterday, we proposed to undertake an analysis to see whether the proposed amendment from China corresponded to the recommendations of the working group as contained in Annex 1 of the working document, and then present to the committee the results of our analysis. And overnight, my team worked quite hard to undertake that analysis, and we compared the amendment proposed by Japan and the amendment proposed by China to the original document published on the 15th of November, 2021. And I'm going to ask my colleagues, I will ask my colleagues to display the comparison table. And the table shows the extent to which both, if we could, we'll scroll slowly. This table shows the extent to which both the Japanese and Chinese amendments changed the original version. The first amendment submitted by Japan was presented to complete the removal procedure related to step 5, which had been missing in the original version put online, and the second amendment submitted by China revises some of the provisions which were related to the procedures for transfer. So there's a new para 30 on the paragraph 38.2. The removal process, so there's new paras on the paras 40.1, 40.2 and 40.3, as well as extension on paras 16.3 and 16.4. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Curtis. And before opening to the floor, I would like to ask the chairperson of the open-ended Intergovernmental Working Group if he would like to comment. Over to you, Mr. Oike.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I apologize for the delay because of lack of my knowledge on the system, how it works here on a Saturday. Now, I would like to make just one observation because perhaps the most important part of the Chinese amendment is related to this removal request. And as I remember, this was a sensitive issue and hotly debated in the working group. Now, the core question, I indicated this yesterday in a very concise way, but let me explain a little bit more about this particular issue. So the removal request in the new formulation can come by the state party concerned, yes, of course, but other parties like third country or NGOs or communities can also make that request. That is a core issue. But in doing so, there must be some differences between those two cases. That's why we had very lengthy discussions. So I do understand the concern that China probably has on this particular issue. And we had very hot debate. As a result of that, we have two separate procedures. One in the case of a submission by a state party, and the other one for the submission by other groups. Now, what I'm talking about, in fact, is 40.2. Can you stop there? So as you can see, in the second half of this, Chinese amendment essentially is to delete the paragraph starting with "in other cases." This is where we try to show some differences. As Mr. Curtis explained earlier, step 5 was missing, and this is related to this. So our Japanese amendment, which was worked out together with the Secretariat, is essentially to reflect the differences between submission by the concerned state and other cases, and the other cases are displayed there. So what I wanted to say is that due consideration was taken in the process of the deliberation in the working group regarding this particular point. So there are different procedures in place for those different cases. So from that perspective, as a chair, not really as a representative of Japan, but as a chair, I think it would be a little bit inappropriate to delete the second part in other cases, leaving the rest there. So in that sense, as the Chinese delegation said yesterday, yes, it is true that the amendment is not changing the words of this formulation, but I think I have to say that this is more than just a simplification. It's a deletion of the second part on which we had considerable discussions. So, from the purely chair's perspective, I think it would be better to mention both in the document. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Oike. Thank you very much for that opinion. And at this stage, let me invite the committee members to express their opinion. Yeah, Czechia, good morning to you and welcome. The floor is yours early in the morning. Over to you.
Bonjour, Monsieur le Président, et bonjour à tous. Monsieur le Président, nous avons suivi les débats d'hier avec beaucoup d'attention et nous sommes d'accord avec la Chine pour dire que les modifications des directives opérationnelles représentent un sujet très important. C'est précisément pour cette raison que nous ne voulions pas ouvrir des discussions sur le fond, car les amendements de la Chine ne représentent ni les corrections grammaticales, ni la simplification ou l'amélioration du texte. Ils vont au contraire à l'encontre des recommandations du groupe de travail et aussi du point 6 de la décision que nous avons adoptée hier et qui affirme vouloir placer les groupes, les communautés, les groupes et le cas échéant les individus au centre des efforts de sauvegarde et favoriser une participation plus vaste et plus active de leur part à toutes les étapes des mécanismes d'inscription sur les sites. Alors que les révisions des directives opérationnelles dans l'annexe 2 du document 14 ont été soigneusement préparées conformément aux recommandations du groupe de travail, ont été vérifiées par le conseiller juridique et clarifiées et complétées par le président du groupe de travail intergouvernemental. Monsieur le Président, nous voulons avancer pour que l'Assemblée générale puisse les adopter si les États parties sont d'accord et que ce que nous attendons tous, des changements efficaces dans les mécanismes d'inscription, puisse être mis en œuvre le plus rapidement possible. Nous saluons le travail du groupe de travail dont nous avons tous pu suivre et participer aux délibérations et nous souhaitons même étendre son mandat pour examiner d'autres questions importantes. Alors, s'il vous plaît, chers collègues, ne négligerons pas son travail et son expertise pour revenir à la case du départ. Les communautés des détenteurs nous regardent. Avec tout le respect que je dois à la délégation chinoise, nous avons entendu hier plusieurs délégations qui étaient clairement en faveur de la non-ouverture du débat de fond, alors que nous n'avons pas vu un grand soutien de la salle aux amendements proposés. Je suggère donc que nous suivions la procédure habituelle dans ces cas-là, c'est-à-dire nous suivons la majorité qui s'est exprimée et nous demandons à la Chine de bien vouloir retirer ces amendements pour montrer la solidarité avec la majorité des membres du comité. Vous pouvez toujours noter dans le rapport oral des réserves exprimées par la Chine par les modifications des directives proposées. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much. And there are other committee members, yes, wants to take the floor. I will just read the names. China, followed by Poland, Sweden, Brazil, Netherlands, Kuwait. So I will open the... Yeah, I think Kuwait first and then followed by China. So early in the morning, I invite Kuwait to take the floor. Over to you, Kuwait.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, and good morning to all our colleagues. Mr. Chair, like, I said yesterday, the objective was with the opening working group was to discuss the substance thoroughly. So that's what, and I think, we and our approach at Kuwait things is the committee, we just want to make sure that's what's on the opening working group was reflected in the correct way. And again, but at the same time, and I think, if other countries, they have a change, again, not in the substance, but, for a simple change, they have the right. But like, the example I see in front of me, that's a substantial change for a reason, because we went through the discussion thoroughly. So, on one hand, I think China has not in the substance. If it's in a minor, I don't have an issue with that. But if it's substance, I think it's better not to be open in the discussion here, as I see the case in front of me. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to open the floor to China and welcome. Good morning, China. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson. Good morning. Actually, it's a good afternoon from Beijing to all our dear colleagues of the committee. Mr. Chair, I would like to show our deepest appreciation to the Secretariat for its hard work to work out this comparison table between our version and the Japanese version of the amendments. We thank them very much. Mr. Chairperson, first, I would like to make a very brief comment that the rationale behind our proposal is that we would like to take the amendment to the Operational Directive very seriously. And we all, as always, we believe that UNESCO is an intergovernmental organization consisting of states parties. The convention is a legal instrument subject to ratification by the member states of the UNESCO. And all the statutory body within this framework of the convention are composed of the state parties. So indeed, that the main part of our amendment is related to the operational directive regarding the removal part. The reason why we just make the modification is that we believe that by ratifying the convention, the states party shoulders due obligations and duties as defined in the convention. And it's the states party that makes contribution to realizing the purpose of the convention and is responsible for the implementation of the convention at both national and international levels. The states party is the solemn body to carry out all the work under the convention, including submitting nominations, to submit periodic reports, international cooperation programs, etc., as far as this convention is concerned. And nominations are submitted by the states parties with free, prior, and informed consent of the communities, groups, and individuals concerned, and with the commitment to ensure their widest participation of all the stakeholders. So this is how the smooth and sound governance of the convention is ensured, particularly taking into account the limited resources available for UNESCO. So we believe that only the states parties have the right to submit nomination, and also this right shall not be jeopardized. And indeed, that we did have very hard debates during the Intergovernmental Working Group, just as mentioned as the distinguished ambassador of Japan, because China is also one of the active participants in the working group. So there are many pending issues that need further reflections and discussions we believe that during the next meeting of the Intergovernmental Working Group early next year, as well as new issues assigned by the committee at this session. And also further, we take into account the items 11 of this committee, 16.com11. Also, it is mentioned that the Secretariat is requested to bring to further attention the information received from third parties concerning the elements either ongoing or inscribed. So in taking into all these issues, we think that it deserves to further going our reflections on the this working group in a very comprehensive way, and we shall not be in a haste to in this kind of at this conjunction of this state. So that is why we just simplified some of the steps and procedures during the removal step, and we do not believe that it's already been at the mature stage to make all the steps not to include the third party in this procedure. So that is the just the rationale behind our proposal. So we would like to, I don't want to be misunderstood that my delegation do in a spirit of cooperation and solidarity with all the members of the committee to move forward with these operational directive amendments. So, but we do take it seriously. So we would like to go through, it is also our wish to move forward with this proposal, and we look forward to directively, to adopt the relative steps and new procedures under the framework of the Operational Directive. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, China. Now, the floor is to Poland. Good morning, Poland.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, colleagues. Thank you very much for giving me the floor. I just would like to very strongly support my colleague, my distinguished colleague from Czechia and Kuwait, who said that this is a very important discussion when it comes to the review of the listing mechanism. And we have indeed, and Poland as a member of the Bureau of the Open-Ended Working Group, I would confirm that we indeed spend hours discussing the best way forward when it comes to the revision of the listing mechanism. And this is the output that we are dealing with right now of the Open-Ended Working Group. And this has been, as my colleague from Czechia said, adopted and agreed by all members of the Open-Ended Working Group. There is a need, Mr. Chair, to continue our work of the Open-Ended Working Group on the listing mechanisms, because there is still a lot of things to make right and to discuss in the sense for the sake and for the future of the convention. And by saying that, I also would like to mention that this proposal of the annexes 1 and 2, this is the outcome of the Open-Ended Working Group. This is what we requested the Secretariat to do after our work during the session of the working group. And there is nothing else that has been put inside, only those parts that we agreed that we want, and we request the Secretariat to put the changes into the operational guidelines so the committee can approve it and then recommend it as the changes of the operational guidelines to the General Assembly. So we all participated in this very long discussion, and sometimes, of course, it was, as Mr. President of the Open-Ended Working Group, the distinguished ambassador of Japan mentioned, it was a very heated discussion, but we came to the consensus. This is what we asked the Secretariat to do. And right now, our job, Mr. Chair, as a committee member, is to adopt the decision with the annexes that has been already agreed for. And I think that the rationale of this discussion is just to adopt the way it has been presented by the Secretariat and move forward to decide what else needs to be done and what else needs to be presented as a result of our discussion on the reform of the listing mechanism. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Poland. And now I would like to give the floor to Sweden. Good morning, Sweden.
Good morning, Mr. Chairperson, and also good afternoon to the ones in other parts of the world. I would like to start with referring to what has been said by both Czechia, Poland, Kuwait, that this is a very important issue for us to make sure that the decision today reflects the recommendation of the working group. And that is the key here today. And I would also like to point out that Sweden also is taking this issue very, very seriously. So we just support the idea, the way forward that we should proceed with taking the decision of the prepared amendments with the amendment of Japan, which is a complementarity and explanatory part. Anything that would change the idea and the outcomes of the working group, which was, as was said by Poland, in consensus, could not be at all. We don't agree with that at all. So I believe that we echo the majority of the members of the committee by asking for justice. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sweden. And now I move on to Brazil. Over to you, Brazil, and good morning, Brazil.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Good morning, everybody, dear colleagues. Well, very briefly, our position had already been expressed yesterday. We believe that we cannot enter now in a discussion on the substantial points. Besides, as we all know, this text is the result of a large discussion in which many member states, committee members, all stakeholders of the convention have participated. So, of course, the committee could now change and start a new discussion, but I think that it wouldn't also be fair with all this forum who have taken part in the discussion now to change among 24 committee members this text, which is a result of a large discussion, including all stakeholders of the convention. So our position is this one. We hope that a consensus will be found to adopt the resolution. What we do not want, what we cannot do now is to start a discussion, a substantial discussion on the text. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brazil. Now I would like to invite Netherlands. Good morning, Netherlands. Over to you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, and thank you for giving me the floor. The Netherlands can be very brief. We would like to echo the statements made by all other speakers before me, except China. So that would be the Czech Republic, Kuwait, Poland, Sweden, and Brazil, that we would not want to have a discussion on the content at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I would like to invite Switzerland. Over to you, Switzerland, and good morning to you.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, et merci à tout le monde. Bonjour à tout le monde. Aussi de notre côté, on sera très bref. La Suisse souhaite exprimer son soutien plein et entier à la position exprimée par la délégation tchèque et toutes les autres délégations qui sont suivies, sauf la Chine. En ce qui concerne la position de la Chine, nous tenons à préciser qu'il s'agit d'un droit de proposition dont on parle ici, et les compétences décisionnelles restent bien sûr dans les mains des États parties, comités et assemblées générales. Merci pour votre attention.
Yes, thank you very much. And now I go to Togo. Welcome, Togo, and good morning to you, Togo.
Bonjour, Monsieur le Président. Merci d'avoir donné la parole au Togo. Bonjour aux chefs délégués, aux experts. Je n'ai pas prévu d'intervenir, mais en écoutant les uns et les autres, je constate que vous avez convenu de ne pas faire un débat de fond. Si telle est la décision que vous aviez prise, peut-être pas actée complètement, je pense que s'il n'y a pas de débat de fond, il conviendrait de regarder l'amendement proposé par le Japon comme étant l'amendement de l'ensemble des pays qui ont travaillé dans le groupe de travail. Et donc, je crois avoir compris aussi que le secrétariat a été associé, ainsi que le conseiller juridique, aux amendements proposés par le groupe de travail à la personne du Japon. Je suis parfaitement sensible à la question soulevée par la Chine, mais je note également que, comme l'a dit également la République tchèque tout à l'heure, il serait bien de noter dans votre rapport oral les observations de la Chine. Et moi, je proposerai, pour terminer, pour ne pas être trop long, de faire en sorte que vous puissiez adopter ce qui est consensuel aujourd'hui dans l'ensemble des amendements proposés et de renvoyer ce qui n'est pas consensuel sur les prochains travaux du groupe de travail pour que ces aspects soient approfondis de manière qu'une décision complémentaire soit prise à ce sujet à la prochaine session. Donc, clairement, je suis en faveur de l'adoption de ce qui est consensuel et de repousser à un autre groupe de travail tout ce qui a été soulevé par la Chine et qui peut être aujourd'hui adopté. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Togo. And now I go to Peru. Welcome, Peru, and good morning to you, Peru.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Yes, Peru agrees as
Yeah,
well.
we can't hear you properly, Peru. Make the
Now?
audio. Now it's okay. Good.
Okay.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Yes, Peru agrees as well that this is not the moment to open the debate in this committee about this issue. We think that the main forum, is the open-ended working group. So having said that, Peru wants to congratulate the ambassador of Japan for the impeccable work carried out as a chairperson of the open working group on the reflection on the listing mechanism of the convention. It has been a long and complex work whose splendid results we are now looking with admiration. Likewise, given the result of the working group have been very productive, we would like to point out that it seems very necessary to continue working in this same direction and now reflect on the other processes that involve the convention, such as the registration criteria and the number of files that could be evaluated per cycle. This especially taking into consideration that we have a backlog of files and new international instruments such as the operational principles for safeguarding intangible cultural heritage in emergencies, which will potentially bring an increase in the number of nomination files per cycle. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you very much. And if there are anybody, yeah, I think considering all these comments, I cordially invite China to give your comments. Over to you, China.
Thank you very much.
We are not getting the audio. Yeah.
Can you hear
Okay,
me?
now it's okay. Now it's okay. Go ahead, please. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson. I would just like to reiterate that my delegation will be always in the spirit of the solidarity and consensus and cooperation to working with all the committee members to advance and to move forward with all the items that we need to discuss and review and adopt. So as we follow very closely with all the interventions by the committee members, we are in a position that we would like to express very clearly our rationale behind our proposal. But at the same time, we would also follow with the the current text of the amendment proposed by the Secretariat and also as mandated by the Japanese proposal. So we do have the flexibility right in this issue, but based on the expression of our rationale, we can go with the common practice of all the for the committee to adopt the decision. So we will make our inputs, and we would like to see that we will have very smooth process in this issue. So once again, we would like to express our spirit of cooperation. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you very much. It's very great. And yes? We go back to paragraph 7. Yeah, so then we will go to paragraph 7. Please go to paragraph 7. Yes? Yes. Paragraph 7, please. Yeah. Paragraph 7, that's right. So now, yeah. Now here, we are recommending to the General Assembly to approve the amendments to the operational directives included in the Annex 2. Do I see any objections now? Yeah, I think everybody is happy now. Everybody is in consensus. Okay, so I very happily would like to adopt this. Adopted. Thank you very much to all the members for this solidarity. Thank you very much. Yeah, and now I go to paragraph 8. We have a lot of work to do today. Moving to paragraph 8. Encouraging the use of points A, B, and C to ensure inclusivity and a broader involvement across the key stakeholders of the convention. Yes, does anyone object this paragraph and its sub-items? No, I see no objection. So thank you very much. I adopted. And now moving on to paragraph 9. Deciding to initiate a reflection on the implementation of Article 18 of the Convention and thanking the Kingdom of Sweden for funding this reflection. Yes, I see no objection, and thanks to Sweden, I adopted. And now I'm moving to paragraph 10. Extending the mandate of the open-ended intergovernmental working group so that it can convene in early 2022 and conclude other issues raised during the Part 1 and Part 2 meetings. Yes, I see no objections, so I adopted. And moving to paragraph 11, suggesting an extraordinary session of the committee in early 2022 after the extended working group meeting to examine further proposals for the forthcoming General Assembly. Are there any objections? So I see no objections. So thank you very much. I adopted. So we have now adopted each of the paragraphs. And we need to adopt the decision as a whole. Okay, so we go decision as a whole. Any objections? So any objections, please? Any objections, please? Yeah? Yeah, over to you, Saudi Arabia. Good morning to Saudi Arabia and welcome. Over to you. The floor is yours, Saudi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, of course. Go ahead, please.
Perfect. If you don't mind, I would like to support the Japanese proposal from the very beginning at the opening of this item. We wish to add a paragraph that highlights the discussion we've had in this committee in regards to the scope and the mandate of this open-ended working group. And if you allow me, Mr. Chair, we would like to add a new para 11. So before para 12, to add the 2 points to the mandate. And I have the text ready if the typist is willing to type after me. Thank you.
Mr. Curtis, can you comment on this, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to clarify, are you proposing a new paragraph between 10 and 11 or a new paragraph 12?
Yes, between 10 and 11,
Okay.
new para 11. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, please go ahead. Saudi Arabia, please.
All right. So also decides to add to the mandate of the open-ended intergovernmental, and then the rest of the name, the following: A, necessary procedure to examine exceptional cases. And B, reflection on the possibility of introducing preliminary assessment procedures to the existing upstream process. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And thanks to the typist, of course.
Oh, yes. And open to the floor. Any suggestions from anybody else? Yes, I see no objection. So this amendment from Saudi Arabia, I would like to adopt it. So adopted. Thank you. So now we move on to, we have now adopted each of the paragraphs and we need to adopt the decision as a whole. Now go to that, please. So draft decision 16.com14. Yeah, I see no objections. Therefore, with very happily, I adopt this draft decision 16.com14 adopted, and thank you very much for all the dear members, dear delegates, everybody. Thank you. So now we move on to the next step. We have a lot of work, but anyway, we are moving forward. And thanks, I would like to thank the Ambassador Oiko for your comments and your participation, active participation. Thank you very much. You have done hard work. Okay, thank you. Thank you. And Secretariat also I must thank for all the hard work you have done.